Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, creating a community where Black and queer folks are fearless in thought and curious at heart. I'm one of your hosts, Tony, and today Jordan, Damon, and I are discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly of social media. Has the fear of being canceled impacted the way we express our viewpoints? Is freedom of speech a right or a responsibility? This is Unpopular Opinion. All right, y'all.
All right.
We're going to get into some things today.
Are we?
Hopefully they don't get us canceled. Because that's what the girls like to do these days.
Let us pray on it.
We're going to talk about some unpopular opinions and some things like that in social media. But before we do that, I want to talk about some unpopular opinions with you girls and see which ones you agree with and which ones you may not agree with.
Okay.
So,
we're going on the record.
And this is going on the record. This is definitely going on the record. We will pull this back up if you ever try and lie in the future.
Let me get some water.
Okay? So, unpopular opinion. I like Kim Kardashian.
No, I don't. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Is that how I play the game?
That is how you play the game. Do you agree with that unpopular opinion?
I like Kim K.
I don't mind Kim Kardashian. I will say that. Yeah, she's grown on me. I don't care about podcasts. Unpopular opinion. Do you agree?
I don't care about podcasts. Not a lot of them, but I found a couple.
Okay.
Some in this one that I like.
In this one, Jordan.
I like news podcasts.
Yeah, I like podcasts. I like the listening experience. So I would say that I do like podcasts. TikTok is a waste of time.
I agree. I don't get it. I'm old.
I actually think it's a lot. It's very involved. So at this juncture, I would agree with this unpopular opinion. Jordan?
I love TikTok.
Oh.
TikTok is very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. At this very moment, I love it so much more than Instagram. It's brought me so much more joy.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. We'll unpack that at a different time. Do what brings you joy.
Yeah.
People only care about activism for the likes.
Ooh, I don't agree with that. Mostly, I don't know. Let's go with no.
Jordan?
I don't agree with that.
I think that it's sometimesy. I think a lot of people do it for likes. But then I think that the ones like us who are, have some integrity, we do it because
integrity.
we do it because
Jordan is doing it for the TikTok.
We do it for the clout. No.
Okay.
TikTok in the
monogamy is dead.
Fuck that shit.
I don't agree with that.
I think in the queer space, I think it's kind of dead.
Kill it.
I like to think it's not, but
I'd killed it.
All right, let's go into the next one. The idea that you should never quit or give up is kind of bad.
Yeah, I think that's like...
You agree with that?
Yeah, I think sometimes you should quit. I think sometimes you should throw in the towel.
You know what? I like to say, know when to say when, and some people don't know when to say when.
Know when to leave. What they say? The party,
Right.
the relationship,
Right.
the job.
Hello?
That's all I got.
Lavish New Year's parties are a waste of money.
I can't give a direct answer for that. Lavish New Year's Eve parties at these generic ass parties that charge random people all this money is a waste of time. But if you are investing in your experience with the people you love, I think it's worth it. I think the New Year's is a great time to, invest in your outlook.
Damon.
I don't think you need a lot of money to have a good time with great people. So I'm going to go with fuck it. I don't need to spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, at this juncture in my life, I for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been sitting in
At my
Damon's
house.
domicile. But then we might tip out, but it's not lavish. It's nice to start bringing the new year that way.
We tried to tip out the year before last. Ended up just going back to your house.
Right. We tip from your house to
your
mine.
house.
So, unpopular opinion, 2020 was a good year.
Child. For who? No, not for me.
2020. What are we? We in 2021 right
We're
now?
in 2021. 2020.
They were black that
The
whole
year of
out.
the year of our Lord, the pandemic.
2020
Was it a good year?
It was for me in terms of like mental clarity.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of bad things about 2020, but I think it also brought some awareness and some good things to the forefront that it gave people an opportunity to look at. All right, so everybody's not suited to be a DJ.
That's very true.
Is that an unpopular opinion?
If not, if you ask all these DJs that are popping out.
No. Yeah, no.
Is that shade, Tony?
It's not shade. It's not shade. No shade. Slight read. I do have one final one. Staying friends with your exes is fine and healthy.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
You know they can see you now.
Your voice was
Everybody watch this episode.
No, because all these things have caveats. You know what I mean? Like who's the ex? You know,
no,
how
who's
did y'all
the
break
ex?
up?
Okay.
You know, like
Just a general. Is it just general?
Yeah, if it was
generally
amicable and it was respectful, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Oh my God. So today's episode is about the polarizing nature of social media, cancel culture, all the fun, hot button topics that are very popular right now. So this being our first venture on a public platform expressing our views, opinions, some popular, some not so much. How has the polarizing nature of social media impacted how you express yourself on the podcast? Jordan.
I think with social media being such a volatile environment in terms of like your opinions, I think that it's made me smarter. I think that in the past, it was kind of cool to just say the first thing come to your mind and just sort of release it on social media. And I think that with people being a lot more, let's go with passionate on social media, I think it's forcing people to take the time to do some research on what they want to talk about before they have the conversation. Because I think that what you realize is that your very first thought on a subject may not be how you genuinely feel about it. And you might need to gain perspective to really understand, where you stand on a topic or on an issue. So I think that with social media being such a just mosh pit of like angry people that are very passionate about their causes, has forced me to be more mindful, to sort of read up on things and gain perspective, so that when I am sharing my opinion, it's an informed opinion. And if it is something that's unpopular, I'm at least giving some thought to like why I don't agree with the majority.
It's interesting because I do think that there's a bandwagon mentality when it comes to public opinion, and people see what other people are agreeing with and they automatically jump on that. And it's like, have you taken the time to actually figure out what it is you think about the situation before just tagging along and, kind of rallying behind what everyone else is doing? But I think in terms of my own perspective and approach to like doing this podcast and expressing my opinion, I like to think that I don't do what doesn't feel good for me. And if I have an opinion about something, I think that it's healthy to have discourse. If I don't agree, I think that opens the door for conversation. We can't all just be agreeing and then next thing you know, like there's no growth, there's no conversations being had. No one is learning anything about one another. But I do think that as soon as you open your mouth, there's going to be 50% of people who may agree with what you're saying, and then the other half are, against or disagree with what you're saying. And that's the risk that you take when you jump out on the ledge and, enter the chat with your opinion. And so I think, and also with that being said, when it comes to cancel culture, it's getting out of hand. So I want to read you guys something. Bear with me.
All right. You got a quote for us, or what's this one?
We need to add.
I got a quote.
We need to add a graphic to this.
So listen.
It's like a segment.
There was something I read called. Well, it spoke about the spiral of silence, and that kind of is like people are just being silent about what they really believe. So it says 62% of Americans say that, especially in this political climate, that it prevents them from saying what they actually believe. And I think that's true. Like, people are kind of sitting in silence and spiraling in silence when they actually think one thing. They're not going on social media to,
Express it.
proclaim their real actual thoughts out of fear. But I think that's what we America kind of woke up to, that, the insurrection,
I think that's what you were trying to get at. Like, you share an opinion, and there's a possibility that, half of the people are going to agree, that half the people won't agree. But the people who are the loudest are the people who don't agree with you.
Correct.
Not all the time, obviously.
A lot of times.
But, a lot of times, because social media is a platform for you to go and correct people and air out your grievances. So, yeah, that's not really reaffirming to people if they share a perspective that's unpopular, and then all they're hearing is backlash. It's sort of, it's just like, it's human nature. It's psychology. You do an action, you have negative reinforcement, you're less likely to do the action again. And I'm not always sure that silencing people is always the right thing. Obviously, there's some things where it's just like clear cut, like, this is wrong. Right. You need to not. But I think for a lot of these other topics where it's comes down to like preference and lifestyle and just sort of like morality that isn't life or death, I don't know. It gets a little bit.
Well,
I think also
it begs the question, because I think Mother O always comes in with a line, and she says, were you silent or were you silenced? And I think that fits right into this topic. Were you silent or were you silenced by the public, by public opinion?
I also think that there's nothing wrong with being silent sometimes. I think that's one of that's one of the issues with social media. Everybody has a microphone. Yep. So then everyone feels like they have to use it. And if I'm not using my microphone, then I'm not contributing to society. Well, maybe on this topic, you should be silent and you should be researching and reading and learning and understanding and listening. Right. And like that, I think, is the problem. Like, we act like but like sometimes we act like because you're not saying something and you're not engaged in the conversation, then you're not gaining anything from it. And it's really just a whole bunch of ego, meaning that I always have to say something because I have a Twitter, or I have an Instagram, or I have a TikTok. So like, you have to know what I think about it. But like, maybe what you think about is really ill-informed, or maybe what you think about is just you being very underexposed to a topic or to an issue. And I think that, yes, like, we shouldn't silence individuals. And yeah, like, maybe it does hurt sometimes when like you get shot down when you say something, but like, there is a level of like learning. And I think going back to like what we were saying about how we express ourselves on the podcast, like, I think that's how I've always thought about it. It's just, I'm approaching the topics or things that I feel that I'm in some way knowledgeable about with care. But if I'm ever step outside of something into the place of offense or whatever it may be, I'm humble enough to like listen, to learn, to shut the fuck up and maybe think about something from a different perspective. I think that's been the premise of what we've been trying to do on this show. Like, really analyzing and understanding, like, how do we think about something? Is that true? To Jordan's point, is that truly how I feel? And how do I want to adjust it? And not just be like, this is our platform, I'm just going to say a bunch of shit. Like, that's not what we do. And that's, I don't know. I think one of the good things about what our platform's doing.
Yeah. I mean, people are sitting on ready to listen, to respond.
Right.
As opposed to listening to understand. And like you said, with everyone having that microphone, social media is a big amplification of it's diarrhea of the mouth for a lot of folks. And that's the world we live in. It's really tough. And that's why sometimes the girls take their breaks from it, because
it can be very
that's exhausting. When you silence the girls.
Hello.
Were you silenced? Yes. Yes.
Well, speaking of being silenced and being silent and knowing when to be quiet, I want to talk about how social media platforms are constantly under fire for censoring their platform and making sure that offensive content and offensive users are being either blocked, shadow banned, or whatever. And a lot of organizations are calling for these social media platforms to do that so that they can create a safer environment for the users on the platform. What are your thoughts on freedom of speech? Do we feel like it's a right? Do we feel like it's a responsibility? Tony.
Well, it's in the Bill of Rights.
Constitution.
Constitution. One of them.
I know that's right.
It's in the Bill of Constitutions that you have the right to
Remain silent.
remain silent. You also have the freedom to,
Yeah.
say it like you mean it. I think I don't know. It's a little iffy for me because, like, yes, you have the right to say what you want to say, but you also have the right to get your ass beat.
I didn't see that going there.
So if somebody want to, they see like you can say what you want, but it at what cost and to what end, right? Like you face the music. Or the beatdown, depending on what you say. When you think about people like Wendy Williams and stuff, like there's all of these personalities that say very polarizing things, and they're still alive and well, but it's part of how they make their money. But I think that when it comes to like celebrities, they have this platform and they have the freedom to say what they want to say. But I think there's a level of responsibility that comes with it, even though they may not take it so seriously. But I think people are realizing now you say something and it could really affect your livelihood. So I'm talking about like the baby, like you say something and your whole, like literally music festival after concert was just being snatched. All these things snatch. It changes in an instant. When you think about people like Dave Chappelle, and his special was very polarizing. And he says what he wants to say, and it sparks conversation. And I think it's healthy dialogue. I think he did it with an intention and a goal. But he did it with an intention and a goal, and I think he accomplished his own personal goal at least. And it sparked so much conversation.
At what cost?
But at what cost, right? It can be very detrimental. And I think for us regular civilians, even though
Who you calling a regular civilian?
You.
I'm a star nigga.
yeah, you
Every nigga is a star.
Every nigga is a star. That's what
Listen.
the scripture said.
That's what it said. I'm gonna let you have that. I do think that even though you may not be a celebrity, you may not have all these thousands and millions of followers, I think words matter, and what comes out of your mouth will still get heard by those around you. And I think there needs to be a level of care with what you say. And like Damon was saying earlier, like do some research, read a book, read an article, read something before you just start spewing ill-informed dogma.
Yes, dogma.
But that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like there's a right, but there's also a responsibility.
Yeah. I think it's okay. So I kind of have a two-part answer. It's a right. And I think I was having a discussion with a friend earlier this week about this, sparked by the Dave Chappelle thing. And the right within America to free speech is unique. You're not going to Russia talking whatever you want to. You can't do that in China. You can't, in certain countries, there is censorship and laws. You can't speak out against the government. So it is one of the best freedoms that we have. And I think that when you start to like carve it out, it becomes, okay, well, this side thinks you shouldn't say that. And then this side thinks you should say that. And then you get into this weird slippery slope. So like, I absolutely think it's a right. The part that I have concern around is that right was written into law hundreds of years ago. Yeah. And now we're talking about the same right in a time when one person can have a platform of millions of people versus one person yelling in the town square.
Yeah.
saying whatever you want to say in the town square is doing a lot less and going a lot less further than.
Like you see that crazy man
see
out
that
there
again?
again?
I literally.
Did you see Alexander Hamilton hollering in the street
I'm
again?
picturing the town square.
I see Westworld.
It's very small.
But it's like Alexander Hamilton. Well, I mean, guess that sparked the whole country. But I mean, whatever. But the point being, like, there has to be some level of difference in how we approach that conversation, and how we think about it, because a Netflix special or a Twitter platform with millions of people can do real world harm to vulnerable groups of people.
Yeah.
So then the weird part becomes, okay, how do you protect the freedom to say whatever you want to say in this country while also protecting the effects that it can have on people in their daily lives? Right. And that, to me, is the balance that becomes very, very hard, because
that's what I was doing right there.
You can't say with
you was leveling.
I was leveling the playing field.
Level up. She's here.
Balancing
it. Because you can't, like, you don't want to carve out freedom of speech, but you can't in the same breath say that, oh, well, the violence it may cause to trans people is okay. And how do you attack both things at the same time? I'll admit I don't have the fucking answer. That's another thing people don't do, say they don't have the damn answer.
It's a hard one.
But I don't know. That's a tough one.
It's a hard one, because it's also like, I feel like it's just specifically about that. Being a comic and being a comedian, it really is like, it's washed now. You can't talk about, you can still be funny as hell, but like, they used to be racy, and like, you go to shows and you kind of expect it. I'm also like, you can also not support and watch the content, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's just like, don't watch it, don't turn it off, like, decide and choose not to even be bothered with it.
And I think, like, for Dave Chappelle specifically, I haven't watched any of the Netflix shows, like, since the first one where he started spewing all the homophobic, like, I was like, I don't want to participate in this, so I'm not going to support it.
Right.
But like, then my question became again, I was having the conversation earlier this week, what does that do for the group of people that do watch it, that are influenced by him, that may do harm to said vulnerable group of people?
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, me not watching it doesn't fix that issue. And that's the thing that, like, I don't know.
It's hard. It's like, right, because there's nothing that can really like come in and save the day and like fix it and make it so that you can have your freedom of speech, but you also can't discriminate,
inflame crazy people
on something that's going to be watched by millions of people around the world.
I mean, for one, speaking about unpopular opinions, I watched the most recent Dave Chappelle stand-up on Netflix, and I personally didn't understand the backlash. I think that he made some off-color jokes, as a lot of comedians do, but I think that his overarching story was one of inclusion, ironically. But I'm not going to like dive all the way into that. I want to answer the question. But I think it's absolutely a right. The freedom to speech is absolutely a right. I never want to see us become a society where people literally cannot say things in fear for their livelihood, for speaking their mind. And I know that comes with a lot of consequences, right?
Yeah.
That comes with a lot of people who have the ability and the freedom to spew hate speech. And while I disagree with that, and I think that it's gross to use your platform to spew hate speech, I think that in order for us to evolve as a society, I think that we need to constantly be having conversations and bringing everybody along and making sure that people are learning. And I think that when you censor people and you don't, and you tell them you can't talk about this, it sort of limits their ability to grow.
Yeah.
Because now I think that we have a society where everyone's pretending that they're further along in their journey and their understanding of society than they are. So now we have to pretend like we are inclusive when you may have these thoughts that aren't so inclusive, but you can't share these thoughts And by not sharing those thoughts, you don't have the opportunity to grow. And while I do understand that that's like a small population of people who aren't really prioritizing education, I get that. I don't think those are that's not us in the room. I do want to account for the people who learn through human to human interaction, and the people in this country who are not going to read 7 articles before they post a single thought. And yeah, like I would love for everyone to take that right and take a level of responsibility with it. But I think that that's something that we have to make sure that we do as a society, which is like teaching more empathy and teaching more compassion and teaching more inclusion. But personally, I think that freedom of speech is a right. I don't want to ever see us lose it, but I think that we have to balance that right with the teaching of inclusion. And I think that when our leaders aren't doing it, it puts the entire society at a disadvantage. I do, however, agree with censoring people who are inciting violence. So when you think about like Trump, when he was blocked on every social media platform, like he was rallying his supporters to like physically go out and do harm. And I think that, yes, someone needs to step in if somebody is like organizing violence, for sure. I don't think that that's something that us as a society should ever embrace.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it's
like-
when it's inciting violence, that's definitely a bridge too far. But if you're just being provocative, but you're also, what's the word, discriminating against a major group, minority group of folks, like it's like, where do you draw the line, and who is responsible for drawing the line?
That's the hard part. Who's responsible for drawing the
Yeah.
line? Because even you mentioned Trump, some people would say he's not being inciting violence. A lot of people in the country are saying that.
Right.
I think they're full of shit, but people are saying that.
But and now and I just had like just like jolted for a second. But like I was even thinking about like, would that insurrection have happened if it wasn't such a strong shutdown of opinions from people who agree with Trump? Like and I can't really like fully like say this, but I'm wondering if there was a little bit more patience with the difference of opinions, would that have happened? Like, I don't really know
Right.
if that would have helped, but I'm just trying to understand, like, at what point in the society are we going, like, do we decide that we're going to have the patience to sort of try to work through things with people who don't agree with us? And at what point are we just going to say, done, you're done. If you think this way, you are a disposable person.
I don't know, because it's also like we can. It's like it's stopping or slowing down progress when the conversation's been had like hundreds of years. Like, racism is bad.
Right.
Period.
Right.
It's just like, what do you? I don't want to fucking talk to you about why racism is still bad.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm throwing you the fuck away. Like, if you want to say, like, I can't even begin to list the amount of racist, sexist, homophobic, it's this the amount of things and dogma and bullshit that man spewed for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, however it's running in his presidency.
Yeah.
And like the majority of the individuals that just ignore so much of that, I'm good on talking to them.
Yeah. I just
but you know what? There are some people who have the patience to do that. You should do it. Not me.
I just wish that he had the
carry that
responsibility.
bone.
I wish he had the responsibility to understand that. I mean, he obviously understood that he was the president of the United States.
Yeah.
But like when we talk about responsibility, it's like in an ideal world, I would love for us as a society to be able to say whatever is on our mind, but have the responsibility and the compassion to be open to different perspectives. Like, and I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I just feel like people are so unopposed to like hearing the other side.
Yeah.
And
Listen, the world is not ideal.
The world sucks.
What
I don't know how we got here.
What do you recommend?
No, just
I don't have a recommendation.
That's
I'm
not
gonna
mine.
silence her. Cut his fucking mic off. What do you recommend?
But no, but back to canceling people. Like, do you think that if someone around you is still really invested in someone, you're just like, no, that person's canceled. They're dead to me. Does that become an issue for you and that person?
I mean, it depends. I think, look, and I think that Tony mentioned this earlier, but like, do what feels right for you. What I can't stand is someone who feels like they're going to cancel somebody because they're going to get canceled if they don't cancel them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, I can't like this because if I like this, then they won't like me. I'm okay with you canceling somebody who's supporting somebody who you don't agree with, but just let that be your decision. Don't let it be a decision that was dictated to you by someone else. And I think that if everyone, me included, would be a little bit more brave to sort of own my thoughts and my feelings and sort of live in that, then we could all grow a lot faster, as opposed to just accepting things and just sort of like, okay, well, I guess we're all canceling this, so good night. So yeah, I mean, I say cancel whoever you want to cancel. And when I say cancel, I mean like, you know, restrict the support of a person. I don't believe in the crazy cancel culture where people are like finding addresses and like, like emailing their job. Well, sometimes people do need to get their jobs emailed.
That's
but like,
behavior.
Right. I'm just
but yeah, like I don't believe in that. But when I'm saying cancel, I mean like don't watch the Dave Chappelle like show on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. Like you do your own personal effort to not give support to something that you don't agree with. So yeah,
Yeah, like I don't have ownership over anyone's thoughts or opinions and what someone chooses to engage in or not to engage in, you know. But what I do think is, and what we like to say, Damon, is like, I can't be held responsible for your poor decision making. And so that's my opinion, you know. But depending on the situation, I think that if I cancel someone and you're still actively engaging in that person's content or whatever it is that they're doing, you might want to be respectful and maybe we don't discuss it, you know, if we're going to remain friends. But if it's something that is really like over the deep end, like you're a Trump lover and supporter is giving, well, I also have the right to basically
remove myself.
Yeah, not be to be around you less. I can decide that for myself, and I think that's what you're talking about when you say like restrictive support. So I don't know. I think it does change the game in terms of like the dynamic, but if there's ways around that, you know, I still want everyone to do them, but you know, I think just be mindful.
Tread lightly.
Get that ass beat.
Right. And this is where Tony and I are similar and different. I too believe that like what you like. I have friends that don't like things that I like. If I had to cancel all my friends who were barbs, God, I would have lost a lot of queer friends a long time ago.
Wow.
And where Tony and I are different is that I'm not going to tread lightly. I'm going to let you know I don't like it. I'm going to let you know I don't fuck with it. And I think you're doing some dumb shit.
Oh, we know.
And I'm going to let you know every time it comes up. I also have a friend who's
again.
A walking Twitter account.
Hello, I have a friend who was a Trump supporter, and we've had actually very in-depth conversations about it. But also, it always starts with, you know, that's some bullshit, and that's and being my friend and knowing that you believe in that, that's part of it. And you get over it.
Period. .com.
Well, that's all the time that we have this week. This season of Surface Level is produced in partnership with Moby, Mobilizing Our Brothers Initiative. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.